Alex Bowman, you tricky little devil, you. He does it again, CJ. Alex Bowman comes from nowhere and wins a race that we just had no idea. Well, I shouldn't say we had no idea. We're going to play a clip, but it's almost predictable now that Alex Bowman just about every year, except last year, which was a freak year for him and Elliott, but it's predictable that every year Alex Bowman is going to win a race that it's not only are you really not expecting it all that much because his odds are pretty good, but also it's not like he dominates the race. He's just there at the end.
He figures out a way to get it done, and Sunday was absolutely no different. I give the credit for that win. Number one, him obviously to be able to keep the car on the track for those last laps while everyone else behind him was making mistakes. But without a doubt, this one was down to the strategy call and the decision not to pit. And he put himself in perfect position in the track on the track to be able to take advantage of that. And typical Alex Bowman, as you said, comes through with the sneaky win. We expected it last year. It didn't happen. It looks like he's back on course again this year, though.
Yeah, let's take a listen. This was the race preview. Really, it was the qualifying report I did on Saturday, and this is what I said about Bowman, because this is really what we say almost, I don't know, every couple of weeks about Bowman. So this is what I said on Saturday. All right, hold on a second, because I have to make sure that everybody else can hear this. That would be bad if they couldn't. Okay, here you go. Bowman, when we talked about Bowman, look, he was 70-1 the other day. He was fourth at Coda. He has had moments in the road course races. He was involved in a wreck last year, so you keep that in mind. That's why he had a bad finish. But he doesn't have a top 5 in his last 9 races. But hey, you know what? If you're going to get 50-1 on Bowman, because the number's going to come down for the way he's looked so far, he may not be a bad long shot either. Okay, Bowman is one of those drivers that'll win a race each year. And he didn't do it last year, but he's still good for a win pretty much every year or so when you don't expect it. So there you go. So, by the way, 70-1, dude.
Yeah, amazing, absolutely amazing, and everything is true. And like you said, every couple of weeks on certain tracks, you have to look at Bowman because he can sneak in and be there. He just has a habit of finding a way to stay in the top 10, top 5, and be there to take advantage. In the last couple of laps, he only led 8 laps in this race, pulled out the win. We've been expecting it for a while, so it was good to see him get it done. Give it another couple more weeks and we'll be saying the exact same thing about him again.
That was the other storyline that was really crazy, because and this is the only thing that, and again, we talked about it a few weeks ago. It really blows that they don't have the odds right after qualifying and practice, and you got to wait until 3 or 4 hours later, sometimes late that night or early tomorrow, to get the odds on the NASCAR Cup race. So unless I wait, and if I wait, then obviously we're losing traffic. So I just try to get it up there as soon as possible and guess what the odds are going to be. Man, was I wrong. I said it on, matter of fact, we had some good, we're going to go over some of the comments from our viewers, and that was a way to kind of go back and forth on race day about it. I just could not believe Van Gisbergen. CJ, did you know that he was even money on race day?
Are you kidding me? No,
Even.
I mean I'm glad we're going to go back to the comments for last week, because I like Shane Van Gisbergen. I am all about SVG and his skills, and he can get it done anywhere, anytime, in any machinery. The Tuesday before a race at 5-1, making his 4th series start, expecting him to win back-to-back. I'm not going to take that. I don't care if he's the greatest driver in the world. I'm not going to take that. Even odds. Wow, that's Max Verstappen territory for a guy that's making his 4th series start across 2 seasons. Wow, is that shocking?
Yeah, pretty damn nutty. if you ask me, but it paid off because that's what we want to see. You know, we want to see the insanity of the odds makers. And look, it's not the odds makers really at that point. It's the public, because the public they're the ones that are putting all the money on him. And I just think it's because now, where did he used to race?
He was in the Australian supercars, and he was fantastic. Many times winner, champion, series champion, and we've seen a lot of great car right now. We had Marcos Ambrose from there in years past. Marcos Ambrose goes out and wins NASCAR races as well. But again, you know, he's moved over now into and you know, sideways, whatever you want, as it comes up. But for a fourth series start to win back-to-back in this series, I don't care if your name is Lewis Hamilton, Michael Schumacher, that is really hard to do. And if the odds were 10-1, we talked about it. If they were 10-1, yeah, probably go for it. But at 5-1 the Tuesday before the race weekend just doesn't make any sense to fight at that point if you're trying to make the money.
I mean, 5-1 made it. All of a sudden, it made it look like that was a really good deal, getting 5-1 after it went down to even money. And you know, the only thing I can guess is what happened on Saturday. Matter of fact, I know we don't normally do it like this, so let me see if this will work out pretty well. Yeah, it should. So here is. We're going to go directly to the odds. I mean the comments. So let me just see if I can get them a little bit bigger here. Maybe too big. Okay, so I think, let's see. Here was Wayne, another great show, Greg. I think this is, by the way, the Mystery Caution channel. This was after we posted the result video for qualifying and practice. I think I have it made with your wonderful tips this week. Well, Wayne, thanks for your wonderful comment. I'm not sure I've ever heard anybody reply to anything that we've done is wonderful, but I think that's pretty awesome. Wayne's awesome, great viewer, and we appreciate it. So here's where I responded. Two places. Here's one of them, Fido 139. Well, Larson didn't win on Saturday. Now, I don't know why he said this. The only thing I could think of is just because, and again, probably going to get this wrong, but I'm just thinking it just had to do with talking about, as usual, you know, Larson, low odds, and, you know, he doesn't win all the time on those odds and all that other stuff. I did feel, obviously, he was a better wager than Van Gisbergen at that point, too, because he was still getting 4-1 while Van Gisbergen was even. But I don't know why Fido 139 specifically said this. So, Fido, you can maybe elaborate on it. But anyway, I thought this was a good opportunity for me to reply and talk about that this was my guess. That because of him winning on Saturday, that just got everybody even more into Van Gisbergen winning on Sunday. Like, look, he just won here last year. Now he's come back to the track and he's won it again. Of course he's going to win it tomorrow too. And it just, and who knows, maybe like half of the money came from Australia. I have no idea, but that was my guess.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think everybody was excited about him just based on the spectacular performance he had last year. So already going into the weekend early, we could see he was the favorite, tied there, if I remember correctly, with Larson at the time we recorded on Tuesday. And then he goes out and he wins his, I think it's his third road course race in the Xfinity Series on the track where he won his series debut in Cup. Yeah, that's got to be the only reason where everybody's like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to go out here and he's going to do it again. And, you know, he could have, absolutely could have. Sure. And I'm not denying that. Neither one of us are denying that. But if you want to make money on this sport, you've got to look at the odds in a critical fashion. And the odds just were not there all last week for him. And obviously got even worse as the weekend went on. And he won Xfinity.
Especially when, even though we didn't think, nobody thought it was going to rain. You know, right. It was supposed to be 15% chance. Yeah,
it was a 30% chance.
That was high.
Tuesday.
Yeah. And it rained, and it affected the race again, and that makes it even more crazy on the track, as we saw. But Lana, happy race day. Great show as usual. So I replied. This was another opportunity for me to talk about Vin Gisbergen's odds. He was 2-1 at this time. And he went down to even, but he was 2-1 at this time. And then I mentioned Elliott was 30-1, which I just couldn't believe. And I talked just overall about just liking the long shots. And again, that included the ones like Bowman, Blaney. I think we mentioned Haley and a few others. And that's the way it went. And actually, long shots have been paying off pretty well lately. And it's just proof that NASCAR, the Cup Series, is nothing like F1, even though, as we'll talk next week, it's nice to see F1 getting a little unpredictable, if you can believe it. So,
still predictable, but a little bit more. We can put it that way.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. Let's see, and then I think this is, this is our channel. We're gonna throw in some of the other comments. This is from Prime Sports Network, so this is after we did the show last week. Lana actually posted this on our channel, and she did this yesterday. So she said, picked Reddick, and I'm back in second in work league. And of course, that was our top pick last week.
Yep, you got it. Excellent choice.
Yep. Of course, I did have to mention that he choked again. But he did finish in second. Wow, that's rough. We'll get into that a little bit later on. Then this was the little back and forth we had with TVH 6669 regarding the whole idea, because again, I think this is where he probably thought that we were being critical of Vin Gisbergen.
Absolutely not critical of SVG. Yeah. Every opportunity in the world to win. We're just trying to make money. And at 5-1 on Tuesday, that many days before the race, with all the variables that go into a race week, let alone a race just in and of itself, it's not the best place to put your money.
And CJ, there's some of his back and forth here, which is always nice. We like to have some back and forth with our viewers. So keep that up. This is exactly what we like. Now, I want to let everybody know that you're probably wondering, well, why am I watching this show on Mystery Caution? I thought you guys had this over on Prime Sports Network. But, well, we tipped you off about a month ago. We said that this was potentially going to happen, and I'm going to give this next 2 weeks a little test. So what we're going to do is, as you can already tell, our Tuesday show is going to be on Mystery Caution. So that's Pocono and then Brickyard. Then we go to a couple of weeks break, and we come back, and we'll see what we'll do then. Well, it's going to depend on how the viewership goes, because last week we were able to get over 900 views on our Saturday video, and we had 4 subscribers. That is not what we're looking for. So that's 0.4%. That's pretty bad. So if that's going to be the case, we're going to bring it back or put it on the channel where we actually make money on advertising here on Prime Sports Network, or over on Prime Sports Network. So you're going to see Tuesday for the next 2 weeks on Mystery Caution. That's our main preview show video with CJ and I. And then next 2 weeks as well, you're going to see the the qualifying and practice reports are going to be on Prime Sports Network. So we're going to see. Now, look, we don't expect, of course, 900 views like we had last week, because Chicago is unique. I think that doubled our normal average. So, hey, if we can get 400 or 500 views on Saturday on Prime Sports Network, then we're going to take advantage of that, because, again, we get advertising dollars for that. Hopefully, Mystery Caution will pick up the pace with subscribers, but if it doesn't, then this might be the way that we go. But again, if you just want to try to figure out, well, what is this video doing on Mystery Caution on Tuesday, well, there it is. Okay, so don't forget, though, you got to check out Prime Sports Network on Saturday. I have no idea what time it starts. Hopefully early enough. That'll make things a lot easier for us all. But anyway, that's just the deal. So check that out on Prime Sports Network on Saturday. Okay, so let's talk about Pocono. And because it's such a unique track, CJ, with being a 2.5-mile track, this is not the week where we're going to be able to take a look at another track and say, okay, well, let's take a look at that track this year to give us some handicapping advice. Next week's going to be the week, isn't it? Because we'll be at the Brickyard and we'll be able to go, well, what happened at Pocono last week? That could give us a good indication of how to bet on the Brickyard.
Yeah, 100% agree. This is a big track, 2.5 miles. It's got 3 unique turns. One of them happens to be modeled after the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The only track I would legitimately compare the Pocono to would be the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and we haven't raced on that yet. But we do get these races back to back, so we'll be in a little bit better of a position when we head into next week's race.
Yeah. So and then again the 2-week break. Okay. So they've had 90 races at Pocono, and they switched to the 1 per year though, which was just a tremendous decision. So we've only had 1 race the last 2 years, and speaking of decisions, it was nice to finally hear someone else, because we've talked a lot about the whole idea of NASCAR moving up the times for these races. It was nice to watch Eric Estep's video I was watching today, and he was talking. He spent a good 5 or 10 minutes on moving the times up because of summer and thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff. And he tried to give a little bit of a break to NASCAR by saying that the network is the one that makes all the decisions, but he kind of moved away from that when he talked about some other things, and he kind of put NASCAR back into the crosshairs as well they should be, because bottom line is you're negotiating a contract with a network. That definitely has to be a part of it. I know NASCAR is desperate for coverage, but it just has to be. You just can't be hamstrung with these situations because it's just ridiculous. I mean, come on, negotiate and say, look, 5 o'clock at Chicago in the summertime, then they got to work. I mean, pick another race where you want to have this prime time coverage, but it can't be Chicago in the summertime at 5 o'clock with no lights. So, anyway.
Completely agree. We've been hammering on that point for a long time, and I think, the viewership is what they've always pointed to, but I'm not necessarily sure, like you, that that's the ultimate driving reason. I think it's when the networks can squeeze them in. I personally think that people want to see these races in the earlier afternoon versus staying up until 10 o'clock on a track with no lights because you got delayed by rain. That seems to happen like every other week at this point. So I still am of the opinion after the past month or so that we should water down every single track, though, just to make the racing more exciting. So don't get me wrong there. I'm going to continue to beat that drum after last week's race. But I think from a timing perspective, they definitely need to be earlier in the afternoon just to avoid these weather situations. And they need to be able to be flexible when it's guaranteed it's going to rain at the scheduled start time.
Yeah, you can't tell me that, again, I've said it before. I mean, why if golf can do it, NASCAR can do it. So, okay. Let's get back on track here with Pocono. And we take a look at the last 9 races. Interesting that 7 winners have started outside the top 3 rows. So are you surprised by that, including the fact that we've only seen 1 pole sitter win in the last 19 races at Pocono?
Well, yeah, I am surprised about it because it's against the trend and the way that this track typically races. It used to be a track position race. I mean, if you look at the previous 80 some races or thereabouts, you see a very strong tendency for the winner to come from inside the top 10. It's only been recently in these past couple of years where racers or drivers have started more outside of the top 10. Some of that has to do with the new car. Actually, I take that back, considering the only 2 times they've been here with the new car was 3rd and 8th. But this is a track position track. Usually you have to have a compromise set up. So it's going to be somebody who's quick on Saturday from practice and qualifying that's going to be quick again in the race. And it's just that power off of the turn where you can segregate yourself down these long straightaways. So to have somebody who wasn't set up for that type of power earlier in the weekend to then magically have it in the race, that is definitely surprising to me.
As far as other winners and where they come from, only 7 out of the 90 started in the 20s. Nobody's ever won at Pocono farther than 29th. That's a little bit surprising, too. It's a lot of races. That was Carl Edwards. He started 29th back in 2005. So really, it looks like we're kind of talking about that the sweet spot kind of being, somewhere like maybe between 8th and 18 or something. That seems like a pretty good average. But again, it's only an average. As far as the manufacturer, this has not been a good track for Ford. So that is something to keep in mind. They have not won the last 5 and only one of the last 11. And that was a driver who's no longer racing, Kevin Harvick. So no current Ford driver has won here since Blaney did it in 2017. Toyota, on the other hand, they are loving this track. 8 wins in the last 11. Now, Kyle had 4 of those, and we'll get into him a little bit later on. So he's not with Toyota anymore. Hamlin has 3 of those. Truex has 1. So just those 3 drivers have 8 of those 11 for Toyota. Which, again, it's the big boys. What do you think about manufacturers? Because we've seen that not really be as big as an issue as we thought it was going to be in some races this year. And to tell you the truth, CJ, this is just going to be one of these races where that's kind of the way I'm going to look at it. I'm still favoring Toyota, no doubt about it. But I'm really starting to look at this the way things are going, that maybe, again, because we haven't been to a track like this yet, too, in 2024, that maybe we'll see something different this year. But anyway, what do you think?
I'm right there with you. I don't think, based on what we've talked about the past couple of weeks, it feels like we've been saying this track isn't a Ford track, and then Ryan Blaney goes out and wins. We've been saying it's not a Ford track, and then Chris Buescher is in contention for the win. So I don't think it's going to be as big of a factor as what the trends have laid out for us. It's interesting to note, though, that Toyota would have one more victory had Hamlin and Busch not been disqualified in 2022 and that race been given to Chase Elliott. So right. They finished 1-2 in 2022, which gives them another leg up. And yeah, you can discount that because obviously there was cheating involved, but we all know there's cheating involved every single week. It's just a matter of whether or not you get away with it. They got caught that week. Definitely favoring Toyota as a result of that. They've just been too good here, but I wouldn't discount Ford based on what we've seen over the past several weeks.
Now, speaking of cheating, man, they had 9 go to the rear at Chicago last week. 9. So none of the big boys, but I guess that's the point, is some of those other teams are just trying to do anything to get a leg up. Okay, so before we go into the odds, the current odds, and the drivers and all that other fun stuff, I just want to pop up the odds for the championship. This is from Superbook. We're going to use Superbook now. And so Christopher Bell, Larson, Hamlin, no big surprise, they're still there. But Christopher Bell, really, he's really turned into a legitimate championship favorite right now. I just hope that he can end the way that he has begun his season. But all signs are there that Bell is going to have a really strong season. But now we get to some of the bargains. I mean, Elliott's 10-1, Reddick. Blaney is still 12-1. I don't get that. Let's see. Truex has dropped to 16-1. This maybe shouldn't be a surprise. Logano. Look at Buescher at 40. Chastain at 40. Bowman just won. He's at 50. I mean, come on. Kyle Busch at 100-1. Come on. I mean, how does anybody know whether he's going to, catch something and all of a sudden have it? And then he's got the whole second half of the season basically to figure. I mean, that's just crazy. I'd throw a couple of bucks on Kyle Busch right now for $100. But anyway, what do you think? Who sticks out for you?
I'm not surprised that Christopher Bell is the favorite. I'm also not surprised that Denny Hamlin would be close to him. So I think if anybody sticks out as a true surprise, it would be Kyle Busch. I mean, he's a 4-time winner here. He's not been slow. He hasn't been getting the results because he's been lacking speed. He hasn't been getting the results because problems have happened on track. He got taken out last week, and that happened several times in weeks past when he's been running inside the top five or top 10. So right now, I think Kyle Busch is a must-have. Bowman, for being the week after, usually those odds, despite the fact of, it's extremely difficult to win races back to back in this series. Maybe that enough is for you and I to put him at 50-1, but being last week's winner, knowing how he sneaks wins in, knowing that he's in a Chevrolet, a Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet, at a place that favors horsepower, and Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets have done really well here in the past. It's pretty surprising to see him at 50-1. But Kyle Busch, definitely the biggest standout there, biggest surprise on the board for me.
By the way, taking a look at our preseason picks, your champion is your preseason championship pick is Byron, so he's sitting there at 6-1, and then you also had Hamlin, Larson, and Logano in your final four. Your sleeper was Buescher, so you're getting Buescher at a nice 40-1 still, so that's a good one. My final four was Bell, Byron, Chastain, and Elliott. And of course, as I mentioned before, Bell's my pick to win the championship this year. But my sleeper was Chastain, and I still think he's getting a real bargain, just like your Buescher right here, back to back. They're both 40-1. So.
Yeah, and the thing about these odds, my point really was, like, you've got to know how to navigate these elimination races. So we're approaching a track this week where several guys who haven't gotten a win yet could win. Buescher has won here. Busch has won here. Neither of them have won yet this season. We've seen Byron navigate the elimination rounds pretty successfully and be able to continue to advance. So again, I think somebody that's really streaky, like a Kyle Busch, still sitting there at 100-1 when he very much could easily come out and win at Pocono for his fifth at the track. I think that's a big bargain.
Okay, so here are the odds for this race: the Great American Getaway 400. So. That's usually a bad sign when, well, I don't know. I have no idea how much money the tourism board at Pennsylvania put up for this sponsorship. I would think it's a bad sign, but you never know. Especially since you only have one race, so you don't have to worry about two sponsors a year, just one. But hopefully they put up some big money. Hamlin is the favorite right now over Larson, and he should be. Just taking a look, let's just take a look at these first three here: Hamlin, Larson, and Truex. And by the way, this is another week, CJ, where I'm like, you know what? I really think until it happens back-to-back weeks where the favorites win, I just think this still is a nice time to take long shots. And this is another race to do it, because we're going to go over some of the warts here from some of these drivers right now. But to me, and it's so obvious, even to you, that Hamlin should be the favorite. Matter of fact, he should be like the clear favorite. Like he should be, I'm surprised you're getting 4-1. But if you're getting 4-1, Larson should be 6-1, not right next to Hamlin, because there's no difference between the two. Larson's never won a race here. Hamlin, meanwhile, like you said, probably should have won in 2022. Wins last year, defending champ. So it's back-to-back wins with the next gen. If, of course, he was DQ'd. But 7 top 10s in his last 9. 5 of those top 5s. 1 runner-up, 3 wins. Would have been 4. 3 wins. But here is where now I'm going to say, well, but there's, favorite, low number. He in his last 9 races, he led combined 139 laps. Okay, now I know it's a 2.5-mile race, but still, hear me out. So that's last 9 races at Pocono. First 9 appearances at Pocono for Hamlin. 7 top 10s, same thing, in 9. 6 of those top 5s, 4 wins. Very familiar. What's the big difference? Hamlin led 479 laps in those combined 9 races. So that's a big difference. It's saying that, yes, he's still good here. He's still the best here, but he's not necessarily been dominant here. So there's a little bit of a window that if you're looking for. But again, there's just no doubt in my mind that Denny should be the favorite, and if you can get 4-1, he might actually be one of those drivers, one of those 2 or 3 a year that we talk about. That, all right, if I'm going to take a driver at 4-1, this is one of those very few times I'll do that.
Yeah, I think at Pocono, a place where he's been so historically good at, and historically good recently as well, barring the disqualification. Yeah, he only led 30 laps in that time, but prior to that, if you look in the old car, his starting average across 34 career starts at Pocono is 7.6, but more recently, the 3 races before we switched to the next gen car, he started 19th, 10th, and 17th. So his qualifying average was starting to go back, but he still finished 1st and 4th in 2 of those races. So he's been having to come a little bit more from the back more recently. But with the qualifying that he's back with the next generation or current generation car, 1st and 8th and 1st and 1st effectively in terms of finishing, other than the disqualification. And yeah, he only led 30 total laps, but that's okay. Hamlin's a veteran. For me, he knows how to finish a strategic race, and that's exactly what this is, and that's exactly the type of racing that Pocono presents, are strategy type races, and nobody better than an accomplished veteran to get that done. So I am surprised that we are getting 4-1 now. I would have expected him to have been the clear favorite this week as well, and he's not for some reason.
Yeah, and we're not going to see another even money deal.
No.
So don't worry about that. Especially since, if anybody's even going to come close to that, it's going to be Kyle Larson, not Denny Hamlin. But here's another couple of things. By the way, you were talking about before and after next gen and such. Hamlin's had a very interesting history at Pocono. He won his first 2 appearances from the pole here, then went on to win 4 of his first 9. Okay, that's the first career mark at Pocono. The middle mark, 0 for 18. Okay, the third career mark has been in the last 7 when he's won 3 times. So really good early, really good now. That middle of 0 for 18, I'm not sure what was going on, but that just shows you how crazy it's been for Hamlin at Pocono, but most of it's been good. By the way, the other key thing, if you're thinking about taking Denny Hamlin at 4-1, here's another little wart. His last 5 results this year, his average finish is 25.6. So he's not hot. Kyle Larson, by the way, is coming off a 39th last week. That is the 4th time he has finished in the 30s this year. This is a driver who's 3-1, 4-1 every week, and that's 4 in the 30s. He's got a handful, I think, of others in the 20s. So he's been very inconsistent this year, even though he still might be the best driver this year. That's definitely the case odds-wise. But I think the key, even though he has 4 top 10s in his last 5, 3 top 5s and a runner-up here at Pocono, the fact is he has never won here. And the odds are just similar to Hamlin. So I don't see why on earth I would take Larson over Hamlin this week. And forget Truex. I mean, Truex, his last 8 on the season average is 22.3. He does have 2 wins here. He has looked good in the next gen. But I just can't take a driver that's that cold, and yeah, the number is kind of low. It's 7-1. I mean, I'm okay at 7-1 when Martin Truex Jr. is hot, not when he's cold.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kyle Larson, when he's been low, he's been extremely low, but when he's high, he's been extremely high. So regardless of the fact that he's got that many finishes outside the top 30, he is actually still the points leader. Tied with 3 other drivers at 3 wins so far this season. But again, for Larson, something that is going in his direction is his qualifying here. So he prior to the next generation car, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 starts inside the top 10. The rest of them of 14 were all outside of the top 10. And then the last 2 with the next generation car, he has started inside the top 5. He finished 5th in 2022, would have finished 7th if Hamlin and Busch hadn't been disqualified, but then ended up 20th last year. He led, though, over 40 laps, so 42 laps across the two races with the next generation car, though. So he has been getting better at Pocono, but yeah, I'd like to see more differentiation between him and Hamlin. Definitely, I'd be going with Hamlin at this one because, like you said, Larson's never won here. He's been showing improvement at the track, but Hamlin's been consistently good at multiple points throughout his career. So I would go with Hamlin in terms of these two right now.
All right. Let's move on to the next group. Let's talk about these here. Let's talk about Bell, Reddick, Elliott, and Byron. So Bell, who's now 8-1 here, and that's okay. Matter of fact, he was 6-1 at DraftKings, but he's 8-1 here, which is a more consistent what you're going to get out of a sports book. But I don't know. A couple of things on the good side. Next gen, 4th and 6th. That's good. Only led 14 laps though in those two races. But those are good marks for him overall, since he's only been here 6 times with the Cup Series. On the bad side, his last 2 races now, he's finished 37th and 36th. So I know it's just luck, but you have to take that into account. Is the driver in a lucky run or a unlucky run? Bell's in a little bit of an unlucky run. 8-1's not that bad though, because look, he's at the top of the championship mark for a reason. They're really fast this year. You would think that should help him at a track like Pocono big time. So yeah, if I'm getting 8-1 with Christopher Bell, I'm definitely thinking about it, just like Reddick. You just got to wonder about what's going on in his mind after the last 2 races. You could say he choked. You could say it's a difference between whether he's a great driver or not. Whatever it is, he's got to get a win soon because that's going to get in his head. But second in both races with the next gen, and he is on a nice run. 6 top 10s in his last 7, 4 of those top 5s. The runner-up last week, matter of fact, he probably would have had a runner-up 2 weeks ago if he really needed it. And he also has a runner-up in one of 2 Xfinity Series races at Pocono. So I think Bell and Reddick are both solid 8-1 plays. I think the question then is, do you go... See, I think what I'd rather do is, to tell you the truth is, I'd rather think about taking Bell and Reddick over Hamlin. I'm getting both of them at double the money instead of just Hamlin. As good as Hamlin is here, but I was just thinking, you know what? If I'm going that route, I think I'd rather have Bell and Reddick than just Hamlin. And then you have Elliott and Byron at 12-1. And I'm just not feeling it right now for Chase Elliott. He hasn't, his results the last 3 times have not been good. He just hasn't really done it so far, or at least lately, I should say, in the last several races. That concerns me. He hasn't led a lap at Pocono in his last 7 races. And Byron has never won. And by the way, Elliott won only because of the disqualification. Byron has never won at this track, but he was on the pole last year, leading a strong 60 laps. It's just that his last 10 race average on the season is 16.5. So Byron's also going through a stretch where he is just not really doing all that great, which is why you're getting a little bit better odds with him at 12-1. But out of these 4, like I said, my strategy would be Bell, Reddick, yes, as long as I'm just, because you can't take Hamlin, Bell, and Reddick. You're not, I can't, that's just not the way to go. So that would be my strategy. Go Bell, Reddick over Hamlin. And I think I'm going to pass on Elliott and Byron this week.
Yeah, I completely agree. I find it hard to choose between Bell and Reddick at the same odds because both of them exceptional last week, both feeling like they could have won, which means they'll come out this week with some tenacity. The question that you asked, does the mistake stick in Reddick's mind? The mistake's not going to stick in Bell's mind because it was strategy and it wasn't his fault. So he's still going to be feeling pretty good. And like you said, it's been, multiple mistakes for Reddick. So if he can get over that, that's the only drawback I see with taking Reddick this week. Back-to-back second places at this track, like you said, is exceptional. He's driving extremely well. He's got the speed, as does Christopher Bell. So I agree with you. I'm taking both of these guys. Elliott would be the only one I might consider Probably wouldn't end up taking him, but I definitely would not take Byron. And the reason is exactly the same as what you said. He's in a rough patch. He's got to get over that. There's time for him to do that before he gets to the playoffs. And I have all the confidence in the world that, like in the years past, we'll see him navigate those knockout rounds. But for whatever reason, he's just in a slow patch right now, which is okay by me, considering he's got the wins and he's going to be in the playoffs regardless. And we know that he can perform in the playoffs. So I think Byron's just biding his time. I'm not going to waste my time choosing him this week or hoping for an immediate turnaround. I'll save that for the playoffs. Elliott, maybe I consider because of back-to-back top tens, but like you said, he only won because of the disqualifications. Bell and Reddick are without a doubt the two choices, and you got to go with them. So if you have a hold up of going with the favorite and the low odds with Denny Hamlin, I agree with you. Christopher Bell and Tyler Reddick, you can split your money and get the same payout. So I would go that way.
Yeah, Elliott did something that's really hard to do, and that's win a race without leading a lap. So,
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's ever been done before. Okay.
So Justin, little known fact. Do you remember when Justin Haley won in the rain? I think it was Justin Haley in the rain in Daytona. He never actually crossed the line because they brought the cars to pit road under the wet track. So he never actually crossed and tripped the transponder. So technically he never led a lap, but did win in fact.
Yeah.
So
okay. Yeah, that either way, that's really crazy.
It's a technicality.
Yeah, it is. But that's the first thing that I looked at. I was like, how the heck did he not lead a lap? I had to recall what happened with the DQ, but yeah, that's a pretty crazy stat. Okay, so now let's take a look at the next three. You got Gibbs, Keselowski, and Blaney, and I think Gibbs and Blaney are decent options here. 14 and 16. Gibbs, because even though he's only been in the Cup car twice at Pocono, twice in the Xfinity Series, the fact is you take a look, and 3 of those results are in the top 5. 5th last year in the Cup Series, 2nd in both races in the Xfinity Series. Keep in mind he's coming off his best, I think this is like his best weekend in months, the way he looked in practice, in qualifying, and then on Sunday, first top 5 since Darlington, and then and by the way, he is driving a Toyota, and then throw in Blaney, and this is mostly just because of how hot Ryan Blaney is. He continues to just keep putting in top 10s, 4 of them in the last 5. Now, is there a glitch? Yes, because in his 2 results for the next gen, he finished 30 and 33rd, but he started 6th when I think that was in 2022, led a few laps, not sure what happened. So again, I'm sure there was a big issue there. Keep this in mind. Before the next gen, he had an 11.4 average finish at this track. So, and again, he has a win. So overall, even though the last 2 years count more than anything, he did have a 6th place start. Something went wrong. We know Blaney has been doing better at tracks this year that his history says he shouldn't be. And you're getting 15-1. So Gibbs and Blaney, I would take a look at. I would not go with Keselowski, though, just because combination of the fact that even though his career average finish is 10.9 here in 26 races, he only has 1 win. That was back in 2011. His next-gen results are not very good, and he's only led 87 laps in his last 17 races at Pocono. On top of that, in his last 5 races this year, his average finish is only 18.8.
Yeah, again, I completely agree with you. I think Ty Gibbs, I've been waiting for him to get over his little short mini slump that he was in, and last week was it. So we saw the confidence build. We saw how good he was, and it wasn't just the race performance, like you said. It was throughout the entire weekend. And yeah, we expect Gibbs to be able to punch above his weight, or I guess where he has been punching, I guess, on the road course. So there is that for you. But again, he was 5th, like you said, here last year. So I think that goes very much in his favor. Brad Keselowski, more recently, not so good. So I'm not going to go with him. I have no qualms about taking Blaney. As you said, he's been very consistent. And I think as long as his crew isn't making mistakes on him, making the wrong strategy call or messing things up in the pits, I think he's going to be competitive at Pocono as well. He's proven himself to be capable of doing that, and I seem to recall that being the issue last season.
Probably, yeah. And by the way, it could have been the issue in 2022 as well. By the way, it's only if you're getting good odds with Blaney, because again, he's driving a Ford, and he doesn't have a great history here. It's been consistent, but it hasn't been great. So yeah, if you're getting that 15, 16 number, definitely. So I would take him now. Don't, because if he qualifies well and his odds go down to 10 to 1 or 8 to 1, I'd be a little bit less excited about that. Okay.
Agreed.
Now, let's look at the as we start getting deeper in long shots. Look, Bowman, we say this every week. He won last week, so forget it. Bubba Wallace, Buescher, Logano. Let's talk about those other drivers. So out of this group, I would just take a look at Wallace. Bubba Wallace, who had a nice little incident with Bowman that we all saw. Not sure what the deal is there. Look, fans don't want to see that. What fans want to see is, we talked about the week before with Chastain and Larson. I mean, if you got a problem with Bowman, just wait till he gets out of the car, like Ricky Stenhouse, and, do it the old-fashioned way. Nobody wants to see, especially, that costs money. I mean, that's not a good deal there, Bubba. So I know you could fight, or at least I've seen you fight, even though you tried to fight Kyle Larson, which is like King Kong trying to fight me. So it's like, come on. Just get out there and tussle it up with Alex Bowman. That's what we want to see. Anyway, Wallace, I think, is the play out of this group, because if you look at it, the two results in the next gen were 11th and 8th, which is really good for Bubba. And he started in the top 10 in both as well, so that could be key. And he also, check this out, in his first 7 races at Pocono, his career average finish was 26th. In his last 4 races, average at Pocono, including the next gen, the last 2 years, is 9.5. He's also coming off a 13th place finish and a 7th place finish in his last 2 Cup races. So I think that is a good enough reason for me to say, hey, at 30 to 1, he's a decent long shot.
Yeah, his upswing at Pocono coincides with the time that he switched from Chevrolet to Toyota. Obviously, he's still there. His qualifying's been exceptional inside the top 10, all but once since switching over to Toyota, and then finished 11th or better in 3 of those 4 shots as well. So of this bunch, certainly, Buescher's not done much. Yeah, he got the win, but that was a rain-shortened race. Keselowski does have a win, but hasn't done much recently. So you got to kind of discount him. So therefore, that leaves you with Wallace, who honestly has been racing pretty decently in the past weeks as well. He's just got to get some better luck on his side. And I think with that, coupled with the Toyota this weekend, certainly of this group, he would be the one that I would go with.
By the way, Logano, bad finishes at with next gen at Pocono the last couple of years, even though he did start 6th last year and led 21 laps. So, something happened there. So at least there was something of note. But he hasn't had a top 5 at Pocono since 2016. He's only won once. That was from the pole back in 2012. And really, his career at Pocono is about a 2-race stretch. Back in 2011, which is really the second Pocono race. I'm not going to say spring or fall, because those races used to be like 3 weeks apart. So you had the second Pocono race in 2011 and the first race in 2012. That's pretty much been his history at Pocono. He won the pole in both of those races, led 44 laps, 49 laps, and won his only time at Pocono in the 2012 race. Besides that, before and after, he's done nothing. So I'm not sure what that's about, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. So that's why I just don't think Logano's someone to go with. But the other driver in this group to go with at 30 to 1 is definitely Kyle Busch. We saw what happened a couple weeks ago. We were wondering, is this something that's going to light a fire, or, and it's funny because he was there at the end a couple weeks ago, and then the result was bad. This past week, the result was better, even though he wasn't as strong. But that's kind of what you need. That's that kind of little bit of momentum. You're trying to grasp for straws with momentum, and he's got a little bit of it there. And his history has been tremendous here. We talked about it. He's got 4 wins. I get it. It's all with the Toyota. That's the crutch here. We don't know whether or not with the Chevy he's going to be able to perform the same, because last year with the Chevy, he was bad. Before that, we talked about the DQ. Hamlin was DQ'd, so was Kyle. He was in second place. So he finished 36th because of the DQ. He did lead 63 laps, by the way, in that next-gen car, but that was the Toyota a couple of years ago. But yeah, overall, the main thing is you're still now getting 30-1 on Kyle Busch. If he's 15-1, I'm saying no, of course, but you deserve to get 30-1 based on how he's and his team's been going the last couple of months. But I think it's worth a shot. And I think it's worth taking some long shots this week more than other weeks because of we must have just talked about 7 or 8 drivers that are all playoff drivers, that some of them are really good drivers that are going through just rough patches. This is the perfect type of week to think that maybe somebody can come out there and steal a win, sort of like what Bowman did on Sunday. So yeah, out of this group, can't say yes to Logano. Ross Chastain should be 80-1 here. He's so bad. And Kyle Busch, I think, is worth a shot.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking Kyle Busch because, like you said, it's grasping for straws at momentum, and it's largely been bad luck that's held him back. He's been very good here. He's excellent record. Yeah, you've got the question about the Chevrolet, but I don't think that is going to hold him back, especially with the past few weeks where he's got those little bits of momentum. Can't take Logano. We talked about Chastain before. He's consistently good at tracks where he's consistently good, and he's consistently bad at tracks where he's consistently bad.
Yeah.
Consistently bad. So you're right. He should be 80-1. My long shot pick, period, is Kyle Busch.
Yeah, by the way, I know we just slammed Ford a lot, and maybe shouldn't have put Chevy, too much in the respectable category based on the fact that Elliott won that race. He shouldn't have been away. So if you look at it, Chevy's had just as bad of a run as Ford has as far as winning races. And you know what? Maybe because you can see Chevy 2 wins last 4 years. Oh, that's okay. Chevy knows what they're doing at this track. So you take a look at winning manufacturer and look at this. Look at this difference. 5-1 for Ford, under 2-1 for Chevy. And they both basically have had the same amount of wins in the same time span. That has to be because of the fact that you're looking at Elliott as winning, and he really shouldn't have.
Absolutely forgetting about the disqualification without question. Yeah, if you're going to if you're going to bet on manufacturer, I would go ahead and be confident with choosing a Ford with that long shot because you got Blaney out there, you got a couple other guys that may end up winning. But yeah, I mean, Toyota head and shoulders deserves to be the favorite, but there's no way you would choose Chevrolet, especially the way that they backed into that win in 2022.
I don't do manufacturers all too often. Sometimes I think it's worth it, when you see crazy odds, and we've seen them before. Not saying this week is crazy for Ford, but there have been opportunities, and usually it's Ford, by the way. Ford is the one that usually you can take advantage of with these manufacturer odds. And maybe this week is a week to do that. But, and again, my point is I've never really done it, so I don't really have great strategy, but I'm just thinking that, you know what? The strategy would just be you put $100 on Toyota, you put $100 on Ford, and you just hope Chevy doesn't win. And if that happens, you break even. Now you're saying, well, what are you doing that for? Well, because you're hoping Ford wins. And if Ford wins, you got $400. If Toyota wins, you get your money back.
Exactly.
Chevy wins, you're screwed. But this is maybe the type of week to do that strategy because Chevy really hasn't done anything here, just like Ford. So anyway, okay. Now let's go with the really long shots because you know what? We don't spend a whole lot of time on these guys, but I think this is a week where I'm going to throw like a buck on like 6 guys. And why not? This could be a good week to do that. So you got, I'll name them. Briscoe, Gregson, Jones, Gilliland, McDowell, Hemrick, and definitely Stenhouse. So where are the rest of these odds? Gilliland's 200, Jones 300, McDowell 300 for Michael McDowell just because he's on a Ford. Stenhouse 500, and then you go down to Hemrick there at 2,000. Anyway, yeah, I'll put a buck on him. So here's the reasoning. So Gregson has an Xfinity Series win back in 2022 and good results overall in 2022. Hasn't done anything with the Cup, but his last 2 Cup results, 14th and 10th. Again, if we're looking for a little bit of a shocker this week, why not Gregson? Briscoe hasn't shown it in the Cup Series yet. But in the Xfinity Series, he was very strong. He has a win there. He's getting a big number. And he's also battling for a playoff spot. Jones. I know Jones has had an awful season. We've talked about that. About a month or so ago, we really thought that he was going to be a nice long shot play. Derek Jones is going to have to do something. And he hasn't done anything. But he's got a really great resume here at this track. He has an Xfinity Series win at this track. Actually, he has an Xfinity Series runner-up at this track in one attempt, and that was from the pole. And by the way, the key for Jones is waiting until qualifying, because his odds are so high at 300 to 1 that if you look at it, and maybe you don't wait. Maybe you just say, you know what, I'm betting the buck on the 300, and I'm rolling the dice he's going to qualify well, because he's only qualified in the top 10 4 times in his career at this track. And you know what the results were? 8th, 5th, 3rd, and 2nd. When he hasn't qualified in the top 10, his results are bad. So it's all about qualifying for Eric Jones. So is that worth it for you for a buck for 300? Why not? And then the other long shots, Gilliland. Last 9 races this year, his average finish is 13.3. That's very impressive. 7th last week. Matter of fact, if you look at it, no Xfinity races. The Cup, nothing great, but he was 15th last year, which is not bad for him. And in the Truck Series, he was 4 top 10s in 4 races. So at least he knows the track from the Truck Series. McDowell, 6th a couple years ago in the Next Gen. That was from the 25th starting position. First 10 races at Pocono, his average finish is 33.5. Last 11 races at Pocono, his average is 19. Obviously doing much better. He was 5th last week. And don't forget, not too long ago, he was 2nd at Sonoma. Hemrick, look, I know he's probably not going to win. Some of these guys are also pretty good for fantasy. You want to take advantage of them. He raced twice in the Cup Series back in 2019. He finished 7th and 13th. That's pretty good for a driver like Hemrick. He only raced twice in the Cup Series. In the Xfinity Series, he's raced 6 times. 5 top 10s, 2 top 5s, and last year started 2nd and finished 5th. And then finally, Ricky Stenhouse. He only has 1 top 10 in 20 races at Pocono. That was last year when he finished 7th. Throw in the fact that in his last 4 Cup races this year, he's finished 6th, 7th, and 5th. This is like as good as a stretch you've seen from Ricky Stenhouse. And his last 3 starts before the Next Gen at Pocono, 6th, 7th, and 4th. Those are starts. Okay, he didn't finish all that great, but all I'm saying is there's a lot of good stuff here, whether it's just before Next Gen starting positions, 7th last year, his last 4 races in Cup, and you're getting a big number for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. of 500 to 1. So those are all those super long shots that we never usually like. We say, don't waste your money. But this is just one of those weeks where, you know what? $6 or $7, $1 each on those guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and do it this week.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think that's a good strategy. Stenhouse certainly has figured out whatever ailed him at the beginning part of this season. He's been on the best run that he's had so far this year. Makes all the sense in the world to maintain that momentum and keep riding it. In terms of the top choices of those that you listed, though, I'm going with the Front Row Motorsports guys. And honestly, I'd put Todd Gilliland at the top of that list for exactly the reason that you said. He has not finished outside of the top 20 since Dover back in April. He hasn't finished outside of the top, well, aside from Nashville, I guess. He hasn't finished outside of the top 12 since Gateway. Aside from that Nashville finish. So he's got a really good stretch of results at his back, pushing him forward. And we talked a couple weeks ago as to whether or not either one of them could win a race. I think either one of them at this point, the way that they've been driving, could win a race. I think McDowell's more likely to come on a super speedway or a road course. We have a couple of those yet to come. So I think those are going to be his best chances, which is why I'm giving Todd Gilliland, of the bunch that we talked about, top billing. So I agree. I think of the deep long shots, I agree with everyone that you had. Todd Gilliland would be my favorite of the bunch. So,
all right. So let's talk about picks then. And think we're on the same path here, but yeah. What's your strategy this week?
I think you gotta go Hamlin, Reddick, Bell, because you gotta. I'm not betting money. If I were betting money, I would choose one or the other. But since we're just picking, I would go Hamlin, Reddick, and Bell. I think those are some of the best options that you have, most likely to win. From a long shot, though, Kyle Busch, you can't go wrong there. Remains to be seen what he's going to do in the Chevrolet, because he's only got the one result there under his belt, and he was still coming up to speed largely, I would say. And plus, he's been super fast in recent weeks. He's just got to get the luck to go with it, and he does have little slivers of momentum starting to show. So I like Kyle Busch this week.
Yeah, you know what? I'll throw in, out of the drivers you did not pick, I'll throw in Gibbs, Wallace, and Stenhouse. So those would be some other drivers that, look, obviously you know how we feel. We just talked about them all. And I would think that you'd have a really good idea of who we like and who we don't, whether or not we've made an official pick or not. But yeah, those would be some of the drivers to keep an eye on, and some of the drivers that we think that you should stay away from this week as well. All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, want to remind everybody that if you want to check out our qualifying and practice report this week, you're going to go do it over on Prime Sports Network. So hopefully you have already subscribed there. I know many of you have already subscribed, because that's how you found us over on Mystery Caution. Again, that's what you're checking out right here. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to try the strategy out. We're going to go a little bit of reverse psychology, and we're going to go ahead with our Tuesday show here on Mystery Caution. So subscribe. And that's the whole idea why we're doing this, is because we want more subscribers on our motorsports channel. So but hey, bottom line is, wherever you guys want to see us, that's where we're going to end up going. And if it ends up back at Prime Sports Network, then that's what we'll do, even though we're going to maintain this channel and try to see it grow. So check back with us on Saturday at Prime Sports Network. Looks like I should be recording somewhere right around 2 o'clock. It's a USA channel this week. Okay, so USA Network this week. So so it should be 12 to 2 qualifying and practice on Saturday. I'll be recording around 2 o'clock. You should see the report probably somewhere around 3 o'clock on Prime Sports Network. And then next week, we'll be back here on Mystery Caution to preview the Brickyard. So I guess, we're all kind of excited about that, CJ, aren't we? Even though the races sucked, but we're hopeful.
Back on the oval, I never thought I'd be excited about that. But yeah, the racing was terrible, but that was the old car. So we've got this new car now that seems to like these types of conditions and that type of track. So I think I'm optimistic we're going to see a better race. I'm excited to see it back on the oval. Looking forward to it in 2 weeks. It'll be good.
And again, we're also going to get back on the F1 horse next week. We have, 2 more races to go before their break?
You got it. Hungary and Belgium coming up.
And then they go on a month break, just about. We don't see them again until the Netherlands in late August.
Correct. They shut down the shops and send everybody home for mandatory vacation. You're not allowed to do anything during those periods.
Well, next week we'll obviously preview the Hungary race for F1 fans, and we'll also recap an exciting home cooking race on Sunday over in Great Britain for that F1 race where Hamilton won, for the 10th time?
Something ridiculous. He wins so frequently. We've been talking about Mercedes coming up, and they absolutely have nailed it, and can't wait to talk about how McLaren has screwed Lando Norris yet again out of another win.
Okay. I'm interested to hear about that. So that's going to be on next week's show. Don't forget also, check out the link in the description area on Friday. That's where we're going to post the way that you could check out the fantasy report for NASCAR. Matter of fact, that'll be on Saturday. What I'll do is I'll post the link Friday right here on Mystery Caution, so you can check back out and go on that link, and you'll be able to find out CJ's fantasy report from rotowire.com on the race at Pocono, or just wait to check out the practice and qualifying video on Prime Sports Network on Saturday, and the link will be in there as well. So that's going to wrap it up. For CJ Radoon from RotorWire.com, I'm Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in here at Mystery Caution, and we'll see you on Saturday over on Prime Sports Network.